But we are about to welcome to the stage a very distinguished gentleman, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Oklahoma, the Honorable Dustin P. Rowe. He is a lifelong, not yet, you know we have to do the spiel. He's a lifelong resident of Tishomingo and a graduate of Tishomingo High School. Now get this is a really cool part. We've been talking to you guys all week about not waiting until some time indeterminate to do good things. He did not. At the age of 18, while still a senior in high school, he won election to the Tishomingo City Council. He was a full-fledged city councilman at 18 years old, where he served 2 terms as the youngest mayor in the state of Oklahoma. 18 years old, absolutely incredible. He earned his Bachelor's of Arts with honors from East Central University and his Juris Doctorate from the University of Oklahoma College of Law, where his graduating class awarded him the Professional Responsibility Award and the faculty awarded him the Joseph Patrick Award. He was named a Lee B. Thompson Scholar while at OU, and he is an alumnus of the National Judicial College in Reno, Nevada. He serves there on the faculty. He also serves as adjunct faculty for Oklahoma City University School of Law and on the Board of Visitors for the University of Oklahoma School of Law. He practiced law in Tishomingo from 2001 to 2019, where he served as Tishomingo's city attorney for 18 years. He then served as special judge of the Chickasaw Nation District Court from 05 to 11, and as district judge of the Chickasaw Nation District Court from 11 to 19. He was appointed to the Supreme Court of Oklahoma by Governor Kevin Stitt on November 20th, 2019. He assumed office in December of 19. Justice Rowe was retained by voters on November 8th, 2022, and served as Vice Chief Justice for 23-24. And he was elected by his colleagues to serve as the Chief Justice for a 2-year term beginning January 1st, 2025. Gentlemen of Boys State, please give a rousing welcome to His Honor, the Chief Justice of Oklahoma.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I would say boys, but I'm going to say thank you, men. When I was at Boys State 33 years ago, we passed a resolution to rename this program to Men's State. I don't know what happened to it. Maybe you'll pass the resolution. But I am so glad to be here. And I want to ask where Patrick City is. I was a Patrick City citizen in Boys State, or Patrick County. All right, here we go. I was with you guys. Great group. Well, I really am honored to be back. I've not been back to Boys State in 33 years, but I want to tell you that the week that you're spending here is one of the most formative weeks of your life. And I want to begin with my comments by asking you this question. What does the Boys State class of 2026 have in common with the Declaration of Independence? What does the Boys State class of 2026, that's you, what does this class have in common with the Declaration of Independence? Now, as you know, in just a few weeks, we will celebrate in America our semi-quincentennial, our 250th birthday. In 250 years, we have been among the longest living constitutional republics in the history of the world. So I ask you that question, and I want you to think about it, but let me go back in time a little bit, 33 years ago, in fact, when I was here, then Justice of the Oklahoma Supreme Court, Marion Opala, came and spoke to Boys State. He came and spoke to Boys State every year. Now, Marion Opala was of Polish descent. He was born in Poland in the 1930s just before Hitler was rising in power. And as Hitler moved into Poland, Marian Opala became a freedom fighter, an underground freedom fighter fighting for the freedom of Poland and fighting the resistance of Hitler. And as Marian Opala looked for freedom, he found his way to a hay meadow in France where he hid in a bale of hay and was rescued by the American soldier and taken to England, where he was placed in an army base for several weeks. And then he befriended in that army base a young soldier from Oklahoma City named Gene Warr. In fact, Warr Acres, Oklahoma is named after Gene's family, W-A-R-R. And one day the military came to Marian and said, "You've got to go back to Poland because we can't keep you here and you don't have a visa." So Marian went to Gene and said, "I need a visa to the United States. Will you help me?" And Marian said, "If I'm sent back to Poland, I will be killed because Hitler has taken over my hometown." Gene Warr called his dad in Oklahoma City, who was friends with then Congressman Mike Monroney, and Mike Monroney secured a visa within 48 hours. It was at the British Embassy in London. Marian took a steamship from Southampton, England to New Orleans and a train to Oklahoma City where he knew no one. He stepped off the train in Oklahoma City and the Warr family took him under. Marian went to law school and became a justice on the Oklahoma Supreme Court where he served for 32 years. Came to Oklahoma with nothing, and he served for 32 years. Just before Marian died, he was interviewed by OETA and asked, "Justice Opala, what's the most consequential case ever handed down by the Oklahoma Supreme Court?" And Justice Opala didn't miss a beat. He said, "State versus Pyle from the District Court of Harper County." Anyone here from Harper County? Harper County. Are you from Buffalo? Laverne, okay, beautiful country. Mrs. Pyle erected a billboard in 1978 on the rural highway in Harper County. Not a lot of cars out in Harper County driving up and down the highway, is there? And the state of Oklahoma went to Mrs. Pyle and said, "You got to take your billboard down because we don't like what it says. It violates state law." Mrs. Pyle's billboard said, "Get us out of the UN." And at the time, that was unpopular. Get the United States out of the United Nations. And Mrs. Pyle said, "I'm not taking my billboard down." And the Department of Transportation of this great state sued her in the District Court of Harper County. They asked the judge in Harper County to force Mrs. Pyle to take her billboard down. Mrs. Pyle hired a lawyer. She went to court. And the judge in Harper County in 1978 said, "Mrs. Pyle has a constitutional right to maintain her billboard." Do any of you men know what right the judge found that she had? The First Amendment. The billboard was her First Amendment right. The Department of Transportation appealed that decision from Harper County to the Oklahoma Supreme Court in 1978. And the Oklahoma Supreme Court affirmed the judge. The Oklahoma Supreme Court said, the billboard is protected under the First Amendment of the United States, regardless of how unpopular it may be. And then the state of Oklahoma took that case to the United States Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. They asked the Supreme Court to find as a matter of federal law that the billboard had to be removed. And when Justice Opala was giving his interview, just before he died in 2010, having served on the Oklahoma Supreme Court for 32 years, Justice Opala, what's the most consequential decision ever handed down? He went back to that case, that billboard case 32 years prior. Now imagine, he heard thousands and thousands of cases. He picked that one. Why do you think he picked that case? Because he came from a country that did not have a First Amendment. He was born into a society in Poland that did not have the protections of a constitution. Now, young men, billions of people on this earth today live without the protections of our Constitution. It is a special document. And when the interviewer asked Opala, he didn't hesitate because Opala knew the value of the right to freedom of speech guaranteed to us by our Constitution. And Opala said these words, when the U.S. Supreme Court denied certiorari, meaning that the billboard would stay as protected speech, it was my proudest day ever as a judge in the state of Oklahoma. Wow. Imagine, you're from Harper County. Some of you men are from rural counties. I'm from Tishomingo, Johnston County, not a big place. But in these courtrooms, and every one of you have a courtroom in your hometown because every county seat in Oklahoma has a district court. In these courtrooms all across Oklahoma, our constitutional rights are defended and upheld every day. When you drive by and look at your courthouse, do you know how important it is to the rule of law? That is where the rights of American and Oklahoma citizens are debated and upheld every single day? And I asked you the question earlier. What does the boys' state class of 2026 have in common with the Declaration of Independence? Let's go back to July the 4th, 1776 in Philadelphia at Liberty Hall. Remember, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, and you all could recite this with me if you know it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What was the Declaration of Independence? Did America in 1776, was it a country that all men and women were equal under the law? No. The Declaration of Independence was an unrealized dream of the ideals that this country would become. The Declaration of Independence, men, was a promise of what America would become. At the time that the founders of our country signed the Declaration of Independence, they pledged their mutual honor to each other. It was either life or death. They would either survive with freedom or they would be tried by treason. And 250 years later, their vision maintains that we now are a country. Those ideals have become true. That dream has been realized that we are a land where all men are created equal. What do you have in common with that? Boys State is an investment in you. What you do with it is up to you. What will you do with this week? It's an unrealized dream that you have. You have a promise. You can take what you've learned and you can invest your life in a direction to promote our country so that we will see our tricentennial, our 300th anniversary. What will you do with it? I ask you that question. You have before you an unfinished promise that only you have. 420 of you from across the state. There's thousands of young men in your graduating class next year. You are a select few. What will you do with this promise? "33 years ago, this week, I was here as a student. I ran for city council in Patrick City, and I got beat like a drum. So don't raise your hand, but if you've lost a city council race this week, there's hope. Because 6 months later, I was elected as the youngest mayor in the state of Oklahoma, a record that I still hold to this day. And let me tell you, young men, if I had not been a delegate to Boys State, I would have never been mayor of my hometown. This was the seed of promise that was planted in my life. What will you do with it? What will you do with it? I want to close with a story about T. Boone Pickens. Any of you heard of T. Boone Pickens? A billionaire from Holdenville, Oklahoma. T. Boone was born and raised in Holdenville. Who here is from Hughes County? There we go. Holdenville, Oklahoma. You know T. Boone. Isn't the post office named the T. Boone Pickens Post Office? Yes, it is. T. Boone was born during the Depression in Holdenville, Oklahoma. And he went on to become a billionaire with a B. One of the most famed investors of the 80s and 90s. T. Boone went to OSU. I think he got a $25 scholarship or something. But because they invested in him, T. Boone gave over $650 million to OSU. If you've been to OSU, you know the football stadium is named T. Boone Pickens Stadium. Have you seen it? Yeah, T. Boone, you know who he is. Okay. T. Boone, a billionaire, gave $650 million to OSU. And he gave a lot of money to a lot of other institutions, so he was commonly asked to give commencement addresses to colleges and high schools. And shortly before he died, T. Boone was interviewed, and he talked about his success, he talked about his life, and he talked about the optimism of being an American. And I want to tell you what T. Boone said. He said, so often I give commencement addresses, and I look out at the young people, the 18-year-old high school graduates, the 22-year-old college graduates, and I tell them this: I'm so optimistic about America's future when I look at you that I would make you this deal. This is T. Boone talking. I would make you this deal. I'm from Holdenville, a small town in eastern Oklahoma where the West begins and the Frisco and the Rock Island Railroad meet. I came from nothing. And I would go back and trade my seat in the audience with you. I would give you my 68,000-acre ranch. 68,000 acres, that's 120 sections of land. I would give you my 68,000-acre ranch and my jet. And young man, he had a big jet. I would give you both of those for your seat in the audience. That way, I could do it all over again and see once again what America has to promise. Isn't that powerful? That a billionaire would make a deal with you guys? He'd trade seats with you. I hope that convinces you today of the brightness of the future ahead of you. You can do anything. As I said, I asked you, what does the class of 2026 have in common with the Declaration of Independence? It's this: you have an unfinished promise sitting in front of you. Our country fulfilled the promise of the Declaration of Independence. We fulfilled it. We became the country to fulfill the ideals that our founding fathers wanted us to become. And you have to ask yourself, will you do the same? 11 years after the Declaration of Independence was signed in Philadelphia, the Continental Congress was debating the Constitution. And President George Washington was presiding, and Benjamin Franklin was seated in the Congress looking at the dais where Washington was seated. Remember Ben Franklin? He's on the $100 bill. Ben Franklin, a brilliant man, was looking at Washington, and behind Washington, carved into the chair, was a sun. It was a half sun. Half of it was above the horizon, carved into the back of the chair. Half of it was below the horizon. And as this debate over the Constitution waged on day by day, Ben Franklin asked himself, is the sun on the chair rising or setting? He couldn't decide. Is it rising or is it setting? And then the day came, the votes were in, and George Washington signed the Constitution. It had been ratified. And Benjamin Franklin got up out of his seat and he walked up to President Washington and said, "Now I know the sun is rising. The sun in your chair, Mr. President, is a rising sun." What was he saying? That America is a country of optimism. That we have a hopeful future, not a declining one. Young man of the boys' state class of 2026, the semi-quincentennial class, when I look at you, I say the sun is rising in America. We have an optimistic future ahead, not a declining one. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to take Q&A. Now, this is rare. Chief Justices don't take questions, but I'm going to make an exception. I'm going to take questions from the audience. I think we've got Judge Fry here. He'll tell you judges don't take questions, but I'll make an exception today only. All right.
Gentlemen, remember, same respect as we have given to all of our past guests. Young man.
All I can see are bright lights, so when you stand up, tell me your name and where you're from, please. Which county, what's your hometown?
My name's Emmanuel Nkray. I'm from Martin City, but I'm from Edmond, Oklahoma. And my question for you is, what is your hardest case that you've ever had, like emotionally, I would say?
Well, that's a great question. We get a lot of tough cases at the Supreme Court. I often tell the attorneys that work for us, they wouldn't be here if they weren't hard. They wouldn't be here. We only get the hard ones. And what do we do at the Supreme Court? Put your hands down because this will take 5 minutes, and then I'll let you raise your hand again. I'll give you an example of a case. Our job at the Supreme Court is to determine what the legislature means when they write words into the law. And you think, well, that's easy. They write a word and you tell, what does it mean? Oh, you didn't have to do that. I'm fine. Thank you. So we had a lady in her 70s that was a cafeteria worker at a high school here in Oklahoma. You know those ladies that get up at 4 a.m. and make those homemade yeast rolls? They work really hard, don't they? We had a lady in an Oklahoma cafeteria. She was on a smoke break. You know, in Oklahoma, you can't smoke on school property. You have to go across the street. That's state law. So she took her smoke break across the street, her 15-minute smoke break, and on her way back in the building, in the parking lot, she tripped and she fell and shattered her arm. She never worked again. 12 surgeries later, her arm was never usable. She never worked again. So she filed for workers' compensation. In Oklahoma, we have workers' compensation. It pays injured workers. So long as you're working, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. If you get hurt, you get workers' comp. Or that's the logistics of it. And if you're on a break, you're covered. So she's on a break, she's covered. But the law said, the worker is on a break and covered so long as they are inside the facility. And so, as you might imagine, there was one word there that became a point of controversy. Was this worker inside the facility? It was not facility, premises. Inside the premises. Was she inside the premises? Well, the judge said, yes, she's inside the premises. And the state appealed that to the Supreme Court and said, that's not what the legislature meant. When they said inside the premises, they meant inside the building. And she was in the parking lot when she fell. Does she have coverage? Now, you asked me the most difficult case. This is not the most difficult, but it is one that comes to mind because my heart wanted to vote for her. I felt sorry for her. I remember these ladies when I was in school. I love them. You go through the line, they smile at you, they know your name. If it's a good day, they give you 2 rolls. I mean, they're sweet to you. I wanted her to win. But what does inside mean? Was she inside the premises? And I thought, when I was your age, I would go outside and play on the front lawn. My mom would come in at 6 o'clock and open the door and say, "Come inside, it's time to eat dinner." Well, was I inside if I was on the lawn? No, I was upon the premises. And my thought on that case was, if the legislature had wanted her to have coverage, they would have written the statute to say that she's covered so long as she's upon the premises. But they didn't write that. They wrote inside the premises. The legislature makes the law. Courts simply interpret it. We don't get to make it. And oftentimes, your heart pulls you one way, but the law pulls you another. And it's not fun, but it's our job. And that is part of the rule of law that makes America so different. And it's the reason that our founding fathers made 3 branches of government. If the courts could make the law, we wouldn't need the legislature. Great question. All right, another question. And you all tell me about our time. I don't know how long we can go. Question.
Good afternoon. I am Jackson McDermott. Here at Boise State, I'm from Martin City, but I'm actually from Edmond, Oklahoma. My question for you, Chief Justice, is what do you think is the single most dangerous threat to the United States Constitution as it applies to this generation?
The single most dangerous threat to the Constitution as it applies to this generation.
Yes, sir.
Boy, that's a great question. That's a tough question. That's a tough one. Not easy. But I'll tell you what concerns me. What concerns me is that Americans are becoming less and less knowledgeable of our government, particularly how special the rule of law is. How special it is. A few months ago, I was in India. I flew to India with my wife. I had a tour guide pick me up at the airport. I spent a week with him. He was 25 years old. From the time I got in the car with him until we dropped back off at the New Delhi airport, I got to know him very well. I spent every day with him. We drove all over the country. He knew English impeccably. I talked to him at every level as an American. I would talk with you. We talked American pop culture, politics, economy. He was right on par with any American I've ever spoken to. He knew America like the palm of his hand. So on the last day, I said, "Mona, you've been to America quite a bit, haven't you?" He said, "I've never been." I said, "Well, Mona, how is it that you talk to me as an American would talk to me? I find it fascinating. You've never been. I thought you went to college in America." "No, I've never been." I said, "Mona, would you like to go to America?" And he got tears in his eyes. We were driving down the highway. We had a driver, and he was in the passenger seat. I was in the back. He turned around. He got quiet, and he said, "Mr. Rowe, it's my lifelong dream to visit America, just to visit. I want to visit America." We're the envy of the world. But yet sometimes I think Americans become complacent, not knowing how special this country is. So the threat I see is that we've got to become a more patriotic people. That's why this week is so important for you all. This is your unfulfilled promise. What will you do with it? I don't know how many young men will graduate in your class next year, but you're 420 out of thousands. You've got to spread the word. There's just a few of you, and the mantle's placed on you to do it because you were selected. And if you don't do it, that poses a threat. If this next generation doesn't catch the vision of how special this country is and how invaluable our Constitution is, that's a threat. Great question.
Good afternoon, Chief Justice Rowe. My name is Samuel Schmidt. I'm from Edmond, Oklahoma.
Okay, hold on here. There's a racket going on here. But I want to hear his question.
I did not know where they were, sir.
I'm
Those three
teasing.
all being from Edmond.
I'm picking on Edmond boys. I know this Edmond boy right here. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay, I know in the legal world, Roe v. Wade has had a huge impact on Americans. Have you ever presided over a case that focuses specifically on the impacts of Roe v. Wade and abortion?
Well, in Oklahoma, we've had several cases after Roe v. Wade was overturned, or after the Supreme Court handed down its opinion that shifted that right to the states. We had several cases before the Oklahoma Supreme Court. Now think about this. The federal Supreme Court rules on federal law, and what they say is the law of the land. What they say is the law of the U.S. Constitution. That's the law of the land. But the Oklahoma Supreme Court, we rule on the Oklahoma Constitution, and what we say is the law of the land. Even though the Supreme Court may not like it, we get to say what our Constitution says. And so that's the question before us. Does the Oklahoma Constitution have a right to an abortion? And we've had several of those cases. And as of this date, all of the laws prohibiting abortion have been upheld. We may have some other cases in the pipeline, and so I can't speak any further on that. Great question. This young man over here by the wall has had his hand up a long time. Does anyone have a mic over here?
I just got the one, Chief Justice.
Yes. Who's talking?
Back here.
Yes, there we go. Go ahead.
I found you one that's not from Edmond, sir.
Oh, I love Edmond, guys. Hey, I'm not picking on Edmond people, but I want to go ahead.
Hello, Chief Justice Rowe. My name is Noah Merrill from Davenport, Oklahoma, which is in Lincoln County.
Yes, I've been to Davenport.
Cool. Most people really haven't. That's fun to know.
Are you going to go home and run for city council?
I guess after hearing from you, I just might.
When's your 18th birthday?
November 14th.
When?
November 14th.
Okay, so in Oklahoma, to serve in any public office, you have to be a qualified elector. What does that mean? A registered voter, among some other things. So you can serve in Oklahoma when you're 18. And I was appointed to the Tishomingo City Council 11 days after my 18th birthday. So you got to beat me. I'm challenging you. All right, go ahead.
I'll try my best. This week we learned about government and learned about some areas of corruption that are within government. In what way do you think we can fix and end corruption within the legal system and our government as a whole?
Well, that's a question that mankind has been entertaining since mankind began. What is the heart of man? I'm a person of faith, so I recognize that our sinful nature plagues us, and we have to constantly be on guard. So I look at some of these societal questions through the lens of faith and through the lens of Scripture. Now, I'm speaking personally now, not as the chief, but this is something that's plagued mankind for years. You read the Old Testament, you read the New Testament, you look at the historical journals of any government, of any country, even of America. It's something that we've dealt with since the garden. Knowing what we should do and doing what we shouldn't. Paul talked about it in the New Testament, didn't he? He said, I know what I should do, and I find myself doing the opposite. It's a struggle we all face, and we have to be on guard against it. It's a great question. Yes?
Last question.
Last question. Okay, here we go.
Hello, sir. My name's Noah Hall. I'm actually also from Edmond.
Well, I picked you, okay? So there you go.
Yes, thank you.
I'm expecting we've got some future leaders from Edmond, Oklahoma in this group. Maybe a governor, chief justice.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to be watching. Go ahead, sir.
So I got the honor to speak to you at a YLE interview, I guess, at some point. And I was curious because you said you went into local government essentially in high school. I'd imagine that was moving on into college as well. So if you could give us a little more backstory on that, I'd be interested in hearing.
Well, when I was 16, I became very involved in the 1992 presidential election between Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush. That's Bush Sr. I was 16. I did not vote in that election. But it captivated me. It completely captivated me. It was the passing of the torch. George H.W. Bush was a World War II veteran, shot down and rescued in the Pacific. And Bill Clinton represented the next generation. He was a baby boomer, hadn't served in the military. It was a passing of a torch, and it fascinated me. And then I came to Boise State. Right after that election, I came to Boise State. And this is where, right here, this 1 week is where the spark really lit in me that I wanted to work in government, that I wanted to serve in some capacity. Didn't know what it was, didn't know what it would be. As I told you, I ran for city council here. I lost. I went home, and I served 2 years as the youngest mayor in Oklahoma. But when I was here in '93, President Clinton had been elected. He had just been sworn in a few months before. And they handed all of us that famed photo in the Rose Garden of President Kennedy meeting Bill Clinton at Boys Nation. Bill Clinton was a delegate to Boys Nation. And he met John Kennedy in the Rose Garden. And although I was not a Clintonite in that sense, he inspired me. And I think it's my job and our job to inspire the next generation that it will be your time to serve. And that's why I came today. I hope I've inspired you to serve. You can. You should. Will you? Will you? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, for that. That is fantastic. And what a great example. Somebody sitting in your seats not that long ago who lived a life of service from the time he was first eligible to where he is today. I mean, I don't want to say Boise State was completely responsible for all of your success, but I mean, it's probably a good part of it. So this is what you could be in a couple of years. And not that many. He has a couple of counselors back there who, they were his counselors, and he's now the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and they're still working, and he's doing great things. This is the Boise State family. This is the network. But, sir, since you have come back, and since you have taken your valuable time to be with us, I'd like to make you an honorary member of the staff and give you our 2026 semi-quincentennial staff pin. Don't go too far. Don't go too far. We also have an unofficial motto here at Oklahoma American Legion Boys State, largely what you were talking about. What unites us is greater than what divides us. We have to focus on what brought us all together against England, forming this country, moving it forward. So we've got our coin for you as well. Yeah. And this is not a bribe, but I would like to bring out two members of the bar, the Honorable Judge Marion Fry and Jared Harrison, Esquire. We've got a bag of bling. We've got a t-shirt. I'm not saying your Boise State shirt doesn't fit anymore, but we've got you another one in there just in case. Good to have two. No. Oh, we got you the staff shirt. Excellent, excellent. I think they mean that one. You can hold it up. There you go, there you go. Stop. But we have a very rare gift that we give out, not even a gift, but an accolade. Oh, that's yours. We have what we call the Distinguished Alumni Award that we would like to give to you for your services to Oklahoma and starting it all right here at Boise State. Thank you, sir. That's fantastic. All right. Thank you very much.